They think this is joke.
They killed her baby, man.
They want him back in Ferguson. I can't get nobody back.
You can't get nobody back.
And anybody out here don't think so, I don't give a they wrong. That's right. Everybody want me to be calm. Do you know how them bullets hit my son? What they did to his body as they hit his body?
You deserve to be angry, baby.
Nobody had to live through what I had to live through. But y'all want to come with y'all on the best comments. Move.
Let them have. Move. Come on. Move. Come on, y'all. Hey, bro, you come on.
Back on Straight Talk, I'm John Downs in for Adrian Batra. That was Michael Brown's mother reacting to what she obviously feels was a lack of justice in the decision coming out of Ferguson yesterday. Joining us to discuss this, Faith Goldie, a Straight Talk contributor, Spider Jones, Canadian journalist, former radio host, and Bishop E.W. Jackson is an American political commentator and pastor. Faith, you were jumping into this really quickly. I want to get off one of the lines here from Barack Obama last night. The fact is, in too many parts of this country, a deep distrust exists between law enforcement and communities of color. Some of this is the result of the legacy of racial discrimination in this country. And this is tragic because nobody needs good policing more than poor communities with high crime rates. He goes on to say, as I mentioned earlier, we need to recognize that this is not just an issue for Ferguson, it's an issue for America. You seem to think he missed an opportunity here.
Certainly, I think what he did was serve as a race baiter in many ways. Despite telling people to stay calm, he had statements just like the one you just shared with our audience. By my read, this could have been and should have been Obama's Gettysburg Address. He should have we knew that there was going to be no indictment. He could have been prepared for this much more than he showed. Get up in front of the screen and say, folks, look at the color of my skin. What office do I hold? We are not in Martin Luther King's era. Sure, there were grand jury cases then that were stacked with members of the Klan, people who had been pressured by the Klan. But that is not what we serve today. We serve the rule of law. And despite the fact that, yes, I acted as emperor last week, here's the way that things have proceeded. And it was right. It was just. Yes, there is a black boy that is dead right now. And there are lessons to come of it. But not blacks versus the police force.
That's not what I was hearing. Spider, what I heard there last night was him saying people could feel like this, they could feel like this, and that's understandable. At no point did he say it's justified, and there's a difference.
You know what? First of all, he's the president of the United States, but he still has an opinion. I don't think he said anything wrong last night. He said the truth. There is a lot there's a lot of conflict. There's a lot of bad feelings between police in the United States and young black people. I see it all the time because I travel throughout those areas working with troubled youth or in at-risk areas, and there is a mistrust and it is deep, and we have to do something about it. Listen, going into this, you knew it, as you suggested, Faith, and I knew that there probably would not be an indictment here because of the way everything was set up. I mean, the prosecutor's father was killed by a black man. He came back and said there was no probable cause to indict this officer. I don't think Obama said anything wrong personally. I just think the man spoke his mind. And damn, I'm tired of politicians that give us lip service. Tell us what you feel.
Well, here's the issue, and it's a very fundamental one as to what role race played in the death of Michael Brown. Some people say none. I would disagree with that. Bishop Jackson, let me ask you, I want to go back to that line from this Time piece, because I think this actually says something substantial, that these men were expressing a community-wide sense that the official keepers of order are morally bankrupt. This all began with Michael Brown refusing to follow orders from the police officer. Does that not play a significant role in terms of what the relationship is between young black men and police officers, whether they're white or whatever?
Well, of course it does. And by the way, I grew up in the ghetto. I grew up with a working class father, and he taught me respect for authority. He taught me that I could avoid going to jail, that I could avoid having those problems. That if I had a problem with an adult, if it was a police officer, I felt mistreated me, I should go to him, not curse the officer out, not try to fight him, look, there are ways to avoid a lot of these problems, but people simply don't want to face the fact that we've got a cultural problem in these urban areas of the black community. And until we address those, these things are not going. Man, by the way, let me mention one thing. I don't want to hear anything the president has to say about this, and I'll tell you why. He's had 6 years. He could have been in these urban communities across America, talking to these young people, talking to these families, saying, listen, we're going to try to fight to get you a good education, but you got to do something for yourself. You can't run around the streets and shoot each other and kill each other and be on drugs and then say, well, the white man won't give me a chance. He could have done a lot to advance the cause of black justice and black advancement. And frankly, in my view, he's done absolutely nothing but give it.
Can I say something?
Yeah, Spider.
And I agree with the bishop on that, but not just him. I see people like Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton, and I got to tell you something. They need new young blood in there because these old guys are grabbing all this TV time, but they are not saying exactly what the bishop said. Because I work with these young people, and the first thing you got, hey, how to respect authority, and perhaps if Michael Brown would, if he would have not been dead, and I'm not suggesting that he didn't have a right to live, but I'm suggesting we must teach our young people. Education is the the liberator, and all this other stuff. They're not saying this.
Let me take that to faith. Look, is it not a two-way street where obviously you've got to have respect for the guy with the gun who's trying to uphold the rule of law? But if there is such a toxic relationship between young black men and police, it came from something. So what do we do to address the fact that there's a reason a lot of these young guys do not trust the police?
Okay, but it's because the police are the ones who are locking them up. There is a disproportionate amount of black daddies that are in American prisons right now. It's leading to the breakdown of the black family.
You're telling me there's not a history of police
and that's fine.
Misconduct when it's come to members of the young black community?
Okay, that's fine, and that needs to be remedied from within the cops force as well as within the black community as well. But it's not whites versus black, and with the utmost respect, Spider, I appreciate the human rights and civil rights workers such as Al Sharpton, but right now they are not doing a service to the black community. They are not getting out there and saying, educate yourself, young men.
Well, that's what I just said.
Okay.
We're actually agreeing on that.
Fair enough. So, but they're getting out there and they are dangling some sort of donut in front of the police and some sort of carrot in front of the black community and just fueling this fire, literal fire happening on the streets.
Let me tell you something. I believe
right
also that justice, though, the judicial system has as much to blame for this as anything else because they don't see a proportionate amount of justice. I can tell you, you live in this and you'll see why many of these just have no respect for the law. You look at Detroit let's just use Detroit for an example. The former mayor of Detroit, a black man, he's in jail doing time. We're talking about Kwame Kilpatrick. Right from City Hall down, corrupt as hell. And it's not just the case in Detroit. And these police officers also need to be addressed when they do things that are wrong. And it's happening from both sides. So there's a hell of a mistrust. We need to be addressing that issue, not just with the young people going into the black community and talking to the young people, but also good police officers. You understand what I mean? Because an officer would tell a kid, "Come on, we want you to rat somebody out so that we can arrest and make your community safer." And yet the same copper will stand by and watch his guys get away with all kinds of things and will not speak out.
All right, I want to give the final word here to Bishop Jackson. Is this just a matter of time, though, before we have another case like this, another Michael Brown case? Have we learned anything from this?
Until we have leadership that is willing to bring people together and say, look, we don't have a perfect country. We never will. But we got to have a country in which we can get along and talk to one another about these problems and resolve them together. You know, we say in our Pledge of Allegiance, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Until we all come together around that vision, yes, we're going to continue to have these problems.
Amen, Bishop.
I had a feeling that was coming. But ultimately, I do have to wonder if we have learned anything from this. And
I don't think so.
No.
I think it's going to continue to happen. Young black people are going to die at the hands of police officers, and there's a various amount of reasons. And this message perhaps sends to especially people that are young black people, and especially ones that are not educated. They're saying, you know what? you mess with us, we're going to blow you away, and it's going to keep happening. There's no justice. I mean, this did nothing to affirm my belief that we're moving ahead. We have a lot. I mean, you got Trayvon Martin. That, of course, is a different case, but it's still another young black man killed by a white man, unarmed, and this just continues. The BB gun incident that just went on in 2 different places. We got a long way to go.